so I think that's important, that uncommon athlete is one that's going to do things that's going to be, uncomfortable. That's how you get better. You're going to have to be uncomfortable at times, because when you get to the next level, it's going to be uncomfortable getting up at 5 in the morning, running, shooting 1,000, 2,000 shots a week, getting in the gym, a coach getting in your tail, and lifting at 7 in the morning, and doing all the things that you haven't been used to doing, because you're at that next level. But if you've been doing it the right way and had that work ethic before you got there, it's so much easier when you get there.
Hello, everyone. This is Author Tim Brown. The book, Uncommon Athletes, Filled with Passion, Fueled by Purpose. I want to remind you to make sure you subscribe and like the channel so I continue these encouraging broadcasts. Today, I'm excited to have with me a young man who is truly passionate about the game of basketball. He's been doing this thing for over 4 decades, actually. Just excited to have Coach George Howard on the show. He's decked out in his all Ohio gear. He's ready to go. I'm just excited to have him and get his perspective on just chopping up about basketball and just about life, and how basketball really helps these young men to propel to bigger and better things. First off, Coach Howard, welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. I've been watching your shows for quite a while, and I'm excited to be sitting here talking to a man that has a lot of basketball knowledge himself.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that. I wanted to really jump right in and just ask you about, I always ask older gentlemen about the difference in basketball today and back when you played. I know you're in that state championship team at Linda McKinley. Now let's fast forward to today. What do you see as a difference in the game, so to speak, from a player perspective, from what you've seen with these young guys?
Well, the young guys may not want to hear it, but I know that back then, man, guys was just a lot tougher. Mentally tougher, physically tougher. It wasn't all the glamour and the pretty stuff. They just went out and played basketball, man, and it was trash talking, but hey, listen, everybody played hard. They played more physical. They were more coachable back then. It was just a different breed back then than it is today. It's just a little different today.
Yeah, just a little different. And you and I were talking off air how back in the day, guys weren't chasing the bag, weren't trying to get that big contract. The big deal was being the best. Really, the big deal was making your high school team. That was a big deal in itself, and then winning the city and those championships. Talk about them glory days at Linden.
Hey, it was a beautiful time at Linden, and I enjoyed playing there. Got into had some difficulties, but you learn from your mistakes when I was there. But Gene Davis was a beautiful person, and he was a good coach to everybody. And so, but it was tough in the city back then. You had Central, Eastmore, East and North. It was tough back then. It was West was really good back in the day. But basketball back then it was fun, very enjoyable, and we wore the short shorts with the Nikes and the Converse, and but you've seen it over the years, Coach, as it's just changed, like change. And over the 40 years that I've been coaching, I've seen it just total changes, every 10 years.
How did you get involved in basketball? How did you get involved in basketball?
I'll tell you, I always played basketball, and I was always involved in basketball, and I went to Chicago. I lived in Chicago for probably from about 77, probably till about 86, maybe. But I befriended some kids there, and I started meeting a lot of basketball players. I started I got really good friends with with the Paul guys such as Dalek Comegys, Rodney
Mhm.
Strickland, who came a couple years after those guys, but Jackson, Lamone Lampley, Benji Wilson. I don't know if you're familiar with
Yeah.
that name. Used to be around me quite a bit, and Tim Hardaway
Mhm.
was at Carver. And all those guys, I became really friends with those guys, and um, they say, hey, we got the Chicago State Summer League, and that's where I started coaching.
Oh wow, that's great. That's great. Now we all know about your relationship with All Ohio founder Jerry Watson. Now, how did you guys connect?
Well, actually, I've been knowing Jerry since high school. All my cousins are from the West Side. A lot of my cousins are from the West Side. So I used to go up to the West Side. And then we had a class. They would take us on the West Side just to go to, I think it was one or two classes. I can't quite remember. But that's when I became friends with Jerry and Potts and some other friends of mine, Jeff and some other guys. And so I knew that's when we became friends in high school. And then when Jerry and Bruce and them started All Ohio, 1986, I was coaching, you know, I wasn't even here yet. When I came to Columbus, um, Jerry was trying to get me to come over with him, but I was doing some other stuff and start coaching in the Worthington Summer League, did a little coaching in the CBA. And so I started coaching in Chicago. Me and Jerry connected. We've been together 29 years, and the rest is history.
Yeah, and as you say, the rest is history. It's been quite a run. You guys have truly impacted Central Ohio basketball and just the nation, for that matter. Of AAU basketball. What are some of the advantages for student athletes to play AAU basketball? Because AAU kind of gets a bad rap, so to lately. But what are some of the advantages for guys to play at that level?
I really don't, understand why it even gets a bad rap because it's AAU, to be honest with you. Some people may not want to hear this, but when you play on the circuit, when you play on the circuit and you play on a team that really gets seen by college coaches, that's where you get recruited. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of times you don't get recruited in high school because a lot of times the college coaches they're playing during the high school season. So they don't get the opportunity to get out and really see the high school players. So you get seen in high school, in AAU, that's where the college coaches really can watch you. Um, Now with social media the way it is, with streaming the way it is, you've got so many avenues out here that streams where you can watch AAU basketball tournaments when
Mm-hmm.
they're not allowed out. They're only allowed out certain periods. Um, but that's where you get recruited in AAU basketball, and it really helps the kid that is not going to get seen otherwise, get seen by some coaches in AAU.
So, from your experience, what are some of the life lessons that All Ohio is trying to teach young guys uh, outside of basketball? Sure, they're great basketball players. What are some of those life lessons?
Well, the one thing about it is that we have a great group of coaches,
Mm-hmm.
that Jerry has assembled. And I'll tell you, the good thing about it is that we have coaches that really care about the kids. And that's why I do what I do, Tim, for almost 40 years, and I'll do it until the Lord brings me with him, because I love working with youth and being able to share with them and about life lessons. We've got coaches that get on the kids, but the kids know they care about them.
Mm-hmm.
When coaches get on you and the kid knows you care about them, they'll run through a brick wall for you.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I tell other coaches. If you're going to tear a kid down, you better be able to lift him right back up. And I think that's one of the good things that we do at All Ohio. And that's where Jerry's heart is. Jerry's heart is really into these young men, really seeing them be successful. We talk to them about life lessons. We talk to them about, hey, you need to get your academics, because if you never play basketball again, the academics is what's going to lead you through life.
Yes.
So we talk to them about those type of things. And, I talk to kids and all the time. And those are the things that I share with them, because I am firm with them. I tell them to pull their pants up. I tell them to stop all that, talking the way you talk. I tell them that stuff, but they know that Coach Howard cares and loves them. So, and that Jerry cares and loves them. So we can get on them and talk to them about those type things.
Mhm. You've been blessed to have a family legacy in coaching. I know your son is coaching and all that. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel proud. My son Devin got into coaching. Well, he was always raised up in the gym. You know, he used to be around me. Matter of fact, Devin, when Devin was 7 or 8, coach, he used to, if we were winning by 20 points or something towards the end of the game, Devin would get into the huddles and draw plays, and we'd run those plays. And he knew what he was doing back then at 7 or 8 years old. But
Right.
I always, I never really knew that he really wanted to get into coaching. He ended up playing football, was a really good football player, but he got into coaching about 11 or 12 years ago. Has been at Pick Central for 11 years, been with our program for 11 years. And, you know, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. It makes me proud to see him do what he do. And I think he's ready to move on, actually. That's my opinion.
Mhm. How has All Ohio been able to maintain its national presence throughout the years? Because it gets competitive out there in that circuit. How has All Ohio been able to maintain being one of the top programs in the country?
You know, it's all about relationship building. We've
Mhm.
built relationships with college coaches all over the country. Tim, every day of my life, I talk to college coaches. There's never a day in my life that goes past that I do not talk to a college coach. And sometimes that goes from sun up to sundown, not just about my players, but about players. Jerry talks to college coaches all the time. Our coaches talk to college coaches, my son on a regular basis. But I think the biggest thing is that, we're a program. We're not just a team that gets together, Tim, when it's time for AAU. We're a program that we have a lot of things going on in our program. We have our fall league, winter league. We have showcases. We have previews. We have 3 or 4 big tournaments of our own. We kick off the high school basketball season with one day of high school basketball. So
Mhm.
we do a lot of things other than just getting ready for AAU basketball. And I think we try to get, the top players in the state. We can't always get them all, but we've been pretty successful at that. We've been with Nike for a long time, and we just try to do the right things. You don't hear about All Ohio doing this or doing that. You haven't heard about Jerry, any type of trouble or anything
Mhm.
like that. So we try to do things the right way. And I think that has a lot to do with us being successful.
Yeah, they're doing like you said, doing it the right way. That's a blessing. You have coached and seen a lot of top players throughout your years. What makes a player uncommon in your opinion? What separates that player from others?
Work ethic to me.
Hmm.
I talk to kids all the time about their work ethic. I think their work ethic, not just with basketball, but through life. If you can learn to have a work ethic, it's going to get you through life because you have to work to get better. I don't care if it's with basketball, with your job, with your family, no matter what it is, you have to have that work ethic. And I think young men that have that work ethic, and I tell them all the time, there's going to be times when you're not going to want to feel like getting up, going to work out, when you're not going to want to, go put up 500 shots, when you're not going to want to do that. But you're going to have to do it if you want to get to where you want to go. Don't try to shortchange or shortcut and go around it to get, because it's not going to work, because other people will move past you. But I think that uncommon person is that person that really puts forth that effort, that really goes after it, that really wants it. Do you really love the game? I ask kids that all the time. Do you really love the
Hmm.
game, or are you just playing the game because your parents want you to play the game, because you want to make your parents happy, or you just want to be a part of a team? One of the things that I taught my sons was, don't be on a team just to be a part of a team. Be on a team to make a difference.
Hmm.
Be a difference maker. And so I think that's important, that uncommon athlete is one that's going to do things that's going to be, uncomfortable.
Hmm.
That's how you get better. You're going to have to be uncomfortable at times, because when you get to the next level, it's going to be uncomfortable getting up at 5 in the morning,
Yeah.
running, shooting 1,000, 2,000 shots a week, getting in the gym, a coach getting in your tail, and lifting at 7 in the morning and doing all the things that you haven't been used to doing because you're at that next level. But if you've been doing it the right way and had that work ethic before you got there, it's so much easier when you get there. And it helps too, because it helps in your progress, because you shouldn't be better. You should be a better player come November than you were last year when November started. And that comes from working hard and getting better.
That's a good word. I love that word you used about being uncomfortable. Some guys, I think they come from high school, they're just in their comfort zone. They've been around these guys, they know where they stand. But if you want to be uncommon or get to that uncommon level, you got to be uncomfortable. And when you're uncommon, you're able to adapt to different situations. You're not afraid of the moment. You've been there, done that, so to speak, and you accept the challenge. It's a challenge to do that. What advice would you give to young student athletes wanting to play at the next level? What advice would you give these young guys?
It goes back to what we were just talking about. The advice that I would give them is I would say, not only develop your work ethic, but here's what I tell kids all the time, Coach. Study your film. Watch film, because one thing film doesn't do, it don't lie to you. So film is going to be real with you. Film is going to be honest with you. That's very important. Pay attention to detail. When your coaches are talking to you, make sure you listen. Those are the things. And work on your game and get stronger. You got to work on your game. You got to get stronger. You got to pay attention to detail. You got to have a work ethic. You got to watch film. You just have to do those things, because when you try to get around those things, you don't get there. And I've seen so many kids, Coach, that are better in the 8th and 9th grade than this guy over here. But when it comes to the sophomore, when they become a junior and a senior, well, this guy over here is better than you now, because this guy over here has been working his tail off and he's been doing those things, but you've been shortchanging and not really doing those things. And I see that all the time. And that's what happened. And kids tell me all the time.
It's a good word. We've mentioned parents throughout this talk here. Could you give me, let's put a positive spin on parents, and you've been around a lot of parents that have been involved. Give me that ideal parent role in this whole process. Give me some parents who've done it the right way, so to speak. What do you see as an ideal parent role in this?
You say give you the ideal parent, but I would say the ideal parent is a parent that sits back and lets their kid enjoy the game of basketball.
Yeah, that's it.
It's okay to, because I've been a parent. I've been a coach, but I've also a dad. I'm a dad, and I've been so I've been in that role. But sit back and let your kid enjoy the game. That parent that allows their kid just to play, and as soon as the game is over, pick them up, and say, hey, you didn't play well. Well, maybe you can do these things. Maybe you should do this, because you're their role model as their dad or their mom. And they look to you for that comfort if they lost a game or they didn't play right, and I think that's very important. I think this is a conversation that needs to be had more, that needs to be heard more by more parents. And I think that parents really just need to allow their kids to play. And I'm going to say this in closing on this one. Kids, especially in the lower group, they can lose a game by 40 points. When they leave the gym 5 minutes later, they done forgot all about that game.
Oh, yeah.
That game doesn't even mean anything at that point. They're running around, laughing, having fun, playing with friends, eating. They done forgot all about the game.
That's why I wanted to broach that subject, just for parents to think about their role, and their role is really being that cheerleader, that comforter for that child. And I always tell parents as well that when a child was playing the game at the high school level, whatever level, to that level, they really focus on the game. When they need you is after the game, no matter what happens, win, lose, tie. They just need that big old hug, saying you're proud of them, you're proud of their effort or whatnot. And then, we can kind of go from there. But that's the role of a good parent in this whole deal, because also recognize that basketball, the game of basketball or sports, it teaches so many other life lessons that we don't want to miss along the way. Teamwork, discipline, showing, and if you get those type of qualities, respecting people, you get those type of qualities, they help you in life when you get a job.
Yes.
Those things carry
Yes.
on. We don't want to miss those. And I always tell parents, don't miss those life lessons that sports is teaching young people, that when the game, and one day the game is going to end. For some, it's at different times, but at some point it's going to end. And then they don't want to look back on that experience and have a negative experience. They want to look back as being fun, like you said, that camaraderie. I know you've seen this with the parents, how when they're on the team, the friendship amongst the parents, the karate amongst the parents that's on that team, the fun they're having together, kids sleep over at their house or their friends and all that, man. All that's part of the big picture in this the whole deal, and all that. But that's one of those things. This has been a great conversation. So as we wrap up and kind of turn the corner, last I understand that you're starting a new podcast next month. Can you tell the audience about that and what's the vision behind the podcast?
Well, actually, the vision is just to do something different here in Columbus, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
I've collaborated with Yamo Media,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to do the Coach Howard basketball show every Sunday at 6 p.m. It's going to be live on. You can get it a number of different ways. It's going to be live on YouTube, on some other avenues, but we're going to every Sunday we're going to talk about the high school week before and the high school week ahead. We're going to talk about the big games. We're going to talk about your top teams. We're going to talk about your top players. I'll also be having live in studio guests with high school coaches, and I will be talking to a college coaches as well. So it's going to be real in depth. And we'll also be going out to high school games, doing interviews as well, like game of the weeks, the big games, things like that. Coming up right now, I'm getting ready to start doing November 1st. I'm going to do a practice tour, and I'll be going to different high schools, talking to the coaches, top players, and doing a little film of the practice. And we'll start having that on weekly as well. Coming up October the 23rd, I'll be having Coach Howard's college preseason special to kick off the college season. I'll have on my show Coach Chris Holtman from Ohio State. I'll have Coach Huggins from West Virginia, Coach Miller from Cincinnati, and Coach Miller from Xavier, and another special guest coach. So it's going to be that's going to be a great show. On October the 26th at 6 p.m. will be the Coach Howard College preseason special. But this is great, Tim, because it's going to keep people in depth. We're going to have an in-depth show on, what's going on with high school basketball. We'll talk about the top teams and the top players, and I'll give my rankings on both. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be something that I think Columbus would really like.
Well, great. Sounds exciting. Definitely looking forward to that. Well, I want to thank you for your time, for taking the time out to be a part of this broadcast. But also want to thank you for your commitment over 4 decades, over 40 years, just your commitment to young people, to basketball, and just being one of the OGs now. Willing to share all that knowledge that you have. And I love the way you're pointing to these young coaches. There's a young coach I think at Centennial High School that's working with you guys now. I saw
Coach Williams.
Yeah,
yes,
Coach Williams. And just watching him, how excited he is to be a part of what you. And I love how you guys bring in these young guys. Getting that next generation ready, because you and I know we won't be able to do this forever. So we have an opportunity to pour into them. So I want to thank you for that.
Well, it's time for that.
Yes.
Jerry has brought in some young coaches. He's made my son assistant director. He's made on the red side. He's made Sean assistant director on the select side. and those guys are really getting it done. We've got some good young coaches.
Yeah.
We've got a young coach in Coach Kyle that's up at Spire. So we've got some really great young coaches.
All right, Coach. Well, I appreciate you. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
All right. Be blessed.
Okay, bye-bye.